Today, we're going to be taking a look at the SH Figuarts Ichigo Kurosaki Getsugatensho from Bleach, not 1,000 Year Blood War. This is the first regular Bleach figure art as far as I know. At this point, a lot of the other Bleach figures have been the 1,000 Year Blood War figures. This one, however, is not. It is different. It's still obviously in the Bleach line, and mine arrived crushed because they sent it in a bubble mailer. It's more evident on the top than anything. But it's good, you know. There's the box. It's nice to have a different looking box. There's the side, the back. I love this pose. I really do. There's actually this one on the bottom, too, that's really good. But some cool stuff. Very cool figure. Let's get him out here. And inside of the box, we have Ichigo here, and a secondary tray, which is for an effect part. Dragon Ball don't get effects, but every other line sure does. I really don't get that, honestly. The main figure himself, as you can see, comes with an alternate couple of hands here. A couple different, only 3 alternate sets other than fists, and then 3 alternate faceplates, along with his sword, Zangetsu. So let's break him out. And here we have Ichigo out of the packaging in his regular Bleach Bankai form. That's the main thing with this guy, is the other figures that we have of Ichigo are based off of his 1,000 Year Blood War appearance. So after the Fullbringer arc, that's the first SH Figuarts Ichigo release, and the second one's the Dual Zangetsu Ichigo from Part 3 of the 1,000 Year Blood War arc anime. This one, however, is based off of his earlier appearance, Bankai, before he loses his powers and everything. And as far as it goes, I like the look of it. Now, it does have the typical issues of Bleach figures that people don't like, which is, for one, giant pants. I'm okay with it. People say, I want fabric, but that would be kind of annoying, I feel, if I'm being honest. I don't really think there's a way to do these any better. Like, they just have these big baggy pants. That's just how the Soul Reapers look, unfortunately. Nothing really to be done, in my opinion. The upper half, however, very skinny looking, very not baggy, which is a lot different. And his design is kind of crazy. He does also have this really wild kind of skirt piece, which is very articulate, by the way. There's a lot of joints in there, and I'm going to have to show it. Because when I first opened the figure up and moved that, I was like, oh dear God, there's a lot to it. Now, I did swap out one of his hands, because out of the box he comes with his fisted hands and not his sword-holding hand. But the Zangetsu here does not have a place to store because it's Bankai Ichigo. He always has the sword in his hand in his Bankai form. And, I mean, that's just how it is. Of course, the sword is the typical katana. Ichigo's Bankai is the backwards Bankai, so instead of getting a big sword, he gets a basic katana and a bunch of speed boosts. That's pretty much his Bankai's power. Yes, he has a very questionable hilt sometimes. It depends on how you look at it. I'm going to try to not show it as much as possible, just in case, because it's very close to a very inappropriate symbol. But the head sculpt looks really great. Very spiky. His face does like to come off, though, and I'm also unsure of if the other Ichigo faces work with this guy. I'm guessing they do, because they only include a very few selection here. Like, there's not much for faces. They don't even give them the usual teeth grit or the yell. So that's a little strange. But overall, I do think that this figure looks pretty good, and his accessories are also pretty solid. And we're going to first take a look at Zangetsu, because it's probably the easiest one to take a look at, and then we'll take a look at his hands and his faces. So the sword itself, very well painted. The hilt looks pretty great. The whole handle, the blade is in this kind of black coloration, looks great. It does have this little chain on the bottom, and as you've seen, it's one that you don't have to take apart. A lot of the other ones you do have to take apart sometimes, depending on what's at the end of the handle. But in Ichigo's case, it's this flexible chain, so there's not really an issue. So that's pretty solid at the very least. And then we have his hands. So the first set of hands, so I'm just going to show them in pairs, one on each hand, because it's a little bit easier. We obviously have his fisted hand, which every figure pretty much comes with, and then his sword-holding hand, which he has a right and a left of. No issues there. And so Ichigo's next set of hands are a kind of gripping hand, which I believe you could pretty much use as just kind of a secondary grip on the sword. And then his more calm, open, neutral hand, which is always a nice one to get. And of course, his hands ball-jointed as per usual. That's the Tamashii way, except for that one Guts, which really sucked, apparently. So that's fun. That's another figure I want to get, is the newer Band of the Hawk Guts. I really do want that, but it sold out pretty much everywhere I looked. But that is that, and we'll give you your sword back, Ichigo, and we'll take a look at the faces of the figure here, which he has 4 of, and 2 of them work with this current loadout we have going here. First up is generic face, which has a bit of teeth showing. It's like a kind of neutral expression. It's pretty regular, but I'm guessing it's not super neutral, because it's probably a little different. But I do think it looks pretty cool. And then the other face he comes with for this variation, because the other 2 are involved with his mask. So you just remove the bangs, like so, and then remove the face. The face slots into the hairpiece. And this one is him a little beaten up and looking to the right. And he does have a little bandage up here on his right cheek as well, which looks pretty good. The blood's just kind of going down the face. It looks pretty good, honestly, and I actually really do like this face. And again, I do assume these work with the other one. I don't know if they do. Like I said, I have to get one of the other 2 Ichigos, but that's that. Let's take a look at the next one. The next one is probably my favorite, which is the Hollow Mask Ichigo. Yep, there it is, the Hollow Mask. Now, I'm not sure which one this is, because I do know it changes throughout the arcs where he uses it. It does change throughout the entire Espada arc, and throughout the entire... Anytime it appears, it's always the red markings. So I'm not sure if this is the early to late version. I think it's the early one. But it is cool nonetheless. He does have the yellow eyes there. But this one does have an issue. It likes to fall off an awful lot compared to the other ones. I'm trying to put it on there hurts because his hair is spiky. Look at my finger. Can you see the little dots on there from me trying to press that on there good? Yeah, not super good, but it is still my favorite one, and I do love that Hollow Mask. It just looks really cool. And then he has one more, which is pretty cool as well, which is the Hollow Ichigo. I haven't used this one a lot, but there we have it. And this one also has the bandage on the right side of the face, along with half of the Hollow Mask. The eye is blacked out, and he has this very wide, sinister smirk going on, which looks really nice in my opinion. I think this is probably the best face out of the bunch, honestly. It just is. This is definitely the coolest one, in my opinion, out of this set, and it is the one I'd like to display him with, but realistically, I don't know if it really works for my idea I'm going to be going with the figure. So, it's good. I like this one a lot. It is really, really cool. But there is one more thing to talk about, which is his accessory that he comes with, which I still didn't take out of this thing. So the final part of the figure is these 3 parts, which of course assemble into a stand, and this giant black effect piece, which of course is the getsugatensho, which is the namesake of the figure, and it is ball jointed on there. It goes on there pretty well. It does have some posability. It's good that it's ball jointed. And it's not ball-jointed in a bad way, because, like, I'm thinking of the Sasuke fire effect, the kid Sasuke fire effect, where it just doesn't work. Now, it doesn't really, like, peg the sword in any way. I'll probably get some poses with him doing it, but you could pretty much use it like this to just kind of pose it like he's shooting off a blast, pretty much. It's a very limited effect, though, I find, because it has to come from the right. You can't do it from the left, and I like posing from the left a lot of the time, which is the worst thing. But you can do it that way. It does look cool. I kind of wish there maybe was some paint apps to it, maybe some white in there, some like fading, I don't know. I know that I believe it has red to it in the show, so it's a little odd that they just kind of went pure black. That's all they did, just the pure black swoosh. It's nice, it's a very large effect, and it's probably one of the better parts of the figure. But that concludes the accessories and everything else. So let's get to the articulation, which is pretty good. Ball-jointed head, of course, which is going to make the face fall off. The neck joint is there, forward and back the arms. Outward, he does have a pretty good butterfly joint, as you can see. Very good butterfly. He can definitely get two hands on the sword with no issue. The elbow goes complete in, so that's good. Very good double elbow. Swivel. The hand is actually quite articulate and is very able to move because the joint isn't buried inside. So that's very good. The upper torso here moves quite nicely along with the lower torso. It's double jointed, so there's some good movement there. And then we get to this, the entire section here. There's a lot of points of movement. So it's 3 pieces. It's not fabric, of course. I know people probably would have liked it to be wire or whatever, but I'm good with it like this. Tamashii has been doing this lately a lot with the Demon Slayer line. That's the one that I would mostly think of when I see this whole thing. So there's joints in there that allow... So there's the first one that's connected up towards the waist, and then there's usually another joint in the middle that allows the second part to rotate and move and do all that good stuff you want it to do. So that's pretty solid in my opinion. Nothing too bad there. Again, to kind of get it covered over, you kind of have to cover that middle section, I find. That's the way it's meant to go, I believe. And then the legs. Now, the legs are probably the worst part about the figure's articulation, but it's still not bad. Can't really go back at all. Outward, forward's good. Knee is barely an eye. It's 90, a little above, maybe. Ball jointed at the foot, and then he does have a toe bend as well. So that's pretty solid, and overall, that will do it for the Ichigo Kurosaki Getsugatensho figure. So let's just get into my final thoughts here. I think that this figure is really, really solid. But, again, I'm not sure if they're doing the Luffy thing where he comes with the different faceplates depending on the version. Again, that's smart. If the base version comes with the basic faceplates and the other two don't. That's smart, don't get me wrong, but I do hate that they do that sometimes. The faces that he does come with here, though, are really great. I think they're good, except they're just very situational. That's the only issue. I think they expect you to own another Ichigo at this point in time. That's what I'm kind of thinking. But that's about that. The figure comes with a lot, pretty much everything you could want. I can't really see them including any other hands. There's not really a reason. There's not many hands I'd say they're even really missing. That's the thing. With certain characters, it's like, okay, you're missing a ton of hands just to be missing a ton of hands. But with these guys, they use swords. So it kind of, you know, they got the sword-holding hand, they got the open one, they got fists, they got pretty much everything they should come with. The look of the figure is fine. The legs, again, are an issue. And this is the only Bleach figure I think they announced for the majority of this year, I think. Which is a bit of a shame, because the problem with the Bleach line is I feel like they're not giving it much of a chance, because they haven't branched out other than doing Soul Reapers. That's my problem with the Bleach line thus far. Is they've only done Soul Reapers, they haven't done Uryu, they haven't done, like, Orihime, Chad, they haven't done, like, Urahara even, would be, I said that, I completely butchered I can't say Urahara, there we go, Urahara, trying. Like, if they did some different designs, even Yoruichi, like, they just have to try some different designs that aren't just Soul Reapers, and I think they would succeed much more than they have been. They've only done Soul Reapers so far. They've done 3 Ichigos, Renji, Byakuya, Kenpachi, and Toshiro Hichigaya. That's the ones I'm pretty sure they've done. I think that's every Bleach figure they've done up to this point. I'm going to upload this, and then there's suddenly going to announce one. I guarantee it. I could see that happening. But I think this figure's good. Is he a 5 out of 5? Honestly, no, but he's pretty close. He's 4 out of 5, in my opinion. It's the legs that don't work. The accessories, in my opinion, they're perfect. I think they are perfect. The sword looks great. The faces look great, especially the one I have on him now. That is an absolutely amazing face. Just the difference in, like, having the human face and then the mask and then all the detailing. It's just a great-looking face. But that is basically him. If you can get him, especially at a good price, I'd recommend it. And if you're into Bleach, you're probably not going to regret getting this guy. He is a great pickup. And especially as the only main series Bleach figure at this point, not counting 1,000 Year Blood War, of course, because that's what everyone else is. Yeah, I mean, he's good. And I think he's just a good pickup in general, overall. But that is it for my review of SH Figuarts, Ichigo, Kurosaki, Getsugatensho. This has been Eilt signing out.